Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about Brandon Embry.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you get the new episodes whenever they drop. And tell your friends as always.
We're getting straight into it today. There's a lot to cover, even in a two-part episode, which is what this one's going to be. There's just so much, and we want to try to keep it in a good time frame for you guys. Brandon was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but being in a military family, they moved a lot. They even went to Italy once. Brandon was a smart kid. He was an introvert who preferred books over people most of the time. Friends would try to get him to come out and play when he was a kid, and he most of the time would tell them no, because he was busy reading. He won medals for spelling, and he loved science and history. In high school, he was also into powerlifting, until an injury forced him to quit. In 2005, he graduated from high school and followed in his mom's footsteps by entering into the Navy. He was stationed in Hawaii. Nice. And he was a nuclear submarine machinist, mate petty officer second class. Being 6 feet tall and just over 250 pounds, he would say that he felt like a sardine in a can. After 6 years, he was honorably discharged because of a back injury and PTSD. So he went to Washington State to be close to his family. He enrolled in school, 2 schools actually, and got his degrees in bioengineering and chemical pre-engineering. Then enrolled in the University of Washington to get his 4-year degree in engineering. His family ended up moving to North Carolina, leaving Brandon with his girlfriend in Washington. After their breakup, and reportedly with only 1 month of school left, he moved to North Carolina to be near family. He got into heavy metal music, listening to Five Finger Death Punch, Slipknot, Disturbed, and even Insane Clown Posse.
Nope.
Everybody knows how I feel about them. What's a rainbow? How do magnets work? Come on. He also was digging the Viking culture. He would braid his long beard. He even got several tattoos that portrayed the Viking culture, and even got his little niece a Viking costume for Halloween. He brewed mead for Pete's sake. He drank occasionally and dipped or used smokeless tobacco, but he did not use recreational drugs. He did have low testosterone to the point where he would have to give himself injections. So even when he traveled for work, he had syringes and vials of medicine with him. He used multiple dating apps like Tinder, Hinge, and Badoo. I'm not sure exactly how I pronounce that. He mentioned to his sister in February of 2019 that he had met a Russian woman, but it wasn't going to go anywhere because she would be going back to her home country soon.
Now, we ain't trying to knock any ICP fans or anything like that.
If you want to be a juggalo, go be a juggalo.
Yeah, if you want to do that, it's up to you. That's fine. That's just not for us.
My personal preference is I could do without them.
Yeah.
And then I found out that our daughter Haley, who's sometimes on this podcast with us, actually listens to them around Halloween to get herself amped up for Halloween.
Well, I mean, you know.
That's like the only time of year she listens to them. It's so funny.
Well, on February 18th, he was acting strange at work, so his boss sent him to get a drug test. Man, is that ICP? Yes.
That ICE. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. He wasn't feeling very well. He had a headache, stomach pains, and was nauseous. So on his way to get his drug test, he stopped at McDonald's to get some food and see if that would help. Someone at McDonald's would eventually call 911 because Brandon was in the parking lot vomiting and he was incoherent. By the time they got him to the hospital, he was out. He had to be put on a ventilator and he was put into a medically induced coma. His kidneys started failing, so they had to put him on dialysis. He was there for 5 days before he was discharged, and he didn't remember being at the hospital at all, despite his blood work showing no drugs in his system. His employer at the time wouldn't let him come back to work until he went and had a drug test. So Brandon quit. 2 months later, at his new job, it was April 24th at 7:30 a.m. when he passed out and hit his head on the floor. But he was only out for a few seconds, so he shook it off and kept working. Okay. At 9 a.m., he passed out again. They called 911, but at the hospital this time, he was checked and released. He had the same symptoms, headache, nausea, vomiting, just like before, but that can be a lot of different things. The doctor chalked it up to food poisoning and sent him on his way. A couple of months later, on June 28th, his boss sent him home for being pale and jittery. He was not feeling well again and had the same symptoms again. So he took himself to urgent care. His blood tests were clear, like always. They did an EKG, and that was clear too. So he was discharged again. At the beginning of August, he found a job in Charlotte. So he put in his notice at his apartment that he would not be renewing his lease and instead go to a month-to-month agreement or contract while he was waiting for the new job to start. He was still working at his old job as well. He did start boxing up the apartment, though, to get ready for the move. Towards the end of August, his current job sent him to Detroit for work. He came back on September 5th, and when he showed up for work on the 6th, they fired him.
While he had been in Detroit, the hotel staff was taking picture of his room and sending them to his boss.
Yes. Yes.
So my thing is like so his blood work's coming back, so he's
completely clear.
So is it like high blood pressure, low blood pressure?
Well, the first time, like I said, he had to be put in a medically induced coma. One of the other times, they said that they told him to go to the bathroom, or that he could go to the bathroom, and they said he couldn't even operate the door handle. He was so incoherent.
I wonder if he had like one of them the heart.
His EKG was clear.
Oh, that was clear.
Yeah.
Man.
But nobody is like really putting two and two together that every 2 months, this man is coming to the hospital with the same symptoms.
Yeah.
Except the first time, all of his like organs were shutting down and messing up. So weird.
That is weird. So why is his boss having the hotel sending pictures?
Well, as you know, since you've worked out on the road, sometimes to save money, or if you just want a home-cooked meal that you don't have to go out and buy, you'll prepare food in your room, right? So they were sending pictures showing that he was preparing the food in his room because there was a cutting board. I believe there was a bag of onions. There were food bags, dirty clothes, but they even took pictures of his medicines, like up close pictures of his vials of testosterone and his syringes. And there were drops of blood on the sheets, but that was likely from his injection sites, I would imagine, because if you're having to stick yourself every day, that doesn't always just stop bleeding immediately. Maybe it dripped or something like that. But I've never heard of this being done, especially taking pictures of his medicine bottles.
Well, no, that's like complete violation of his privacy.
I need HIPAA to get involved in this, or whoever. Who is it?
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it is totally against, I mean, even a company can't call a hotel and say, hey, I got an employee staying there. I need you to go take it.
They didn't do that. The hotel did it on their own. They did it. The cleaning staff was like, look how messy he is. Look what he's doing to our room.
But they can't do that.
I know.
Unless he is like destroying their room.
And it was not destroyed. It was just messy.
I mean, that is the only reason that they could actually send pictures back to a company is if he's just in there just destroying that whole room. And it's just.
Right. I would have thought that if they're like, you're going to have to pay for this. And he'd be like, I'm not paying for anything unless you can prove it. Okay, here's your proof. I could see that.
Yeah.
But this was just while he's there.
I mean,
while he's still actively in this room, like he's gone to work, they're coming in there and taking these pictures. He didn't know nothing about it.
That is such a violation of his privacy.
Yes. Yes. And his employer, so I keep up on the Facebook page on this. I read what I can, but there's so much information. His mom is still to this day putting stuff and doing her own investigation. And not too long ago, she was actually posting about how one of the times he was in the hospital, his employer was calling and trying to get his medical records and asking them a bunch of questions. And I mean, they knew where he was before his family was contacted to tell them where he was.
And they can't do that unless he gives
Permission.
them permission. That's saying, yes, you can tell them everything you need to know.
Yeah. And he did
I
not.
have to sign off on you.
Yeah.
Just to have permission to have, and you still fight with them.
Yes.
I mean, and you're my wife.
Yeah. I'm like, we already gave permission. And they're still like, nope, we need it again. Okay. It's something we do all the time, even for just our phone stuff.
Yeah.
Not to mention stuff as private as your medical records.
Yep.
It's just so weird. I don't know why they were so involved, but that company is violating right and left. So on the 6th, since he had been fired that day, he went to go dog sit for his mom. So his mom was going on a road trip to pick up his sister, I believe in Kentucky. On the 7th, which was his 33rd birthday, he talked to his mom on the phone when she was on her way back from the trip. He was texting his dad later that day saying he was supposed to meet up with a woman, but she had canceled. On the 9th, he texted his mom saying he had a headache and wasn't feeling well. This is the last text that they believe he legit sent to them before texting stopped altogether. There would be texting over the next couple of days, but they question all of those texts because they don't sound like him. He was very eloquently spoken, like enough that it stood out. Remember I said he won medals in spelling. His grammar was great. He just spoke very well, and these texts don't kind of fall in that line, which could be a show of his decline in mental health as well, or whatever his mental struggle was at the time. You don't know. Now, when she hadn't heard from him on the 9th, she was getting worried because she had called him twice, but he didn't answer the call or call her back like he usually did. He was one of those like you, where if you miss a call, you'll immediately call them back. Whereas me, it's like 4 days later. The next day, she decided she was going to go check on him in person. Now, her daughter said to wait until the afternoon in case he'd been out with friends and was sleeping it off. So she started calling him just before noon. She called 8 times. No answer. So her and Brandon's sister showed up at his apartment at about 2:45 p.m. The door was locked and his spare key was gone. His truck was in the parking lot, so they knew he had to be there. She called 911, and when she hung up, she called the property manager to come bring a key. She walked to the back of the apartment building and saw his screen on the window was bent and the outside pane was broken.
The apartment manager let the cops in, and they found the apartment wrecked.
Right. Now, so the hotel room, there was a couple of dirty clothes laying in the floor and stuff like that. This thing, you couldn't see the floor.
Oh, yeah. So they turned over everything.
Everything. So there were packed boxes that stuff was spilling out of. So it looked like someone had gone through them. There were stacks of boxes that had not been put together yet. So just stacked up over. There were clothes everywhere. Pots and pans and dishes were all over the counter and stove in the kitchen. And they could hear water running. They made their way into the bedroom and found Brandon naked, laying on the floor with a pool of water and blood that was mixing together under his head. He was cool to the touch, but he had a faint pulse and was barely breathing, so he is alive. They rushed him to the hospital. He has a lot of dried blood on his face, and it's very swollen. He has raccoon eyes, so not black eyes like he was hit in the face, but his eyes were like a purplish color, like you would see if there was a skull fracture. The local hospital knows he needs more care than they are equipped to provide, so he is transferred to Moses Cone Hospital in Greensboro. He kept getting worse. He was having seizures. They tried dialysis since his organs were shutting down, but that would cause all of his stats to drop, so they had to take him off of it. Reportedly, a woman called the hospital saying she was Ashley Embry, Brandon's sister, and she said to only speak to her about Brandon's condition and care, but not to their mother. He didn't have a sister named Ashley, but the family had bigger things to worry about at that time. The next day, September 13th, 2019, the doctors told the family that he would just keep seizing until his heart gave out. So they made the almost impossible decision to take him off life support. And at 8:57 p.m., he sadly passed away.
During this time, the police had been investigating. They would end up getting 4 search warrants in this case.
Yeah, just like in the days that he was in the hospital and right after he passed, they were getting one search warrant after another.
So who's this Ashley?
Nobody actually really knows who Ashley was.
Huh.
Spoiler alert, they never really did figure out who that was. But we are going to talk about some women that it could possibly be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, sometimes these warrants were very specific, but as they would find more stuff, they would go back and get a more broad search warrant. One for his truck and, things like that as they got to looking. And here's what they found in the apartment. We've told you about the living room and kitchen. Shit everywhere. There were also broken zip ties, a 10-inch by 10-inch blood stain on the floor at the hall entryway. There were small rocks and dirt randomly. In the bathroom is where the water was running from the faucet in the bathtub. There wasn't any standing water in the bathroom at this time, but there was water damage visible. The sink and counter were covered in toiletries, all inside the sink, so it wasn't usable. I'm talking like deodorant and stuff like that are just piled in the sink. Now let's get weirder. The tank lid on the toilet was broken in half and on the floor. The handle was broken and dangling. The toilet seat and lid were ripped off and on the floor. The toilet bowl was stuffed with toilet paper, and the base of the toilet had been pulled up out of the floor. The mirror was busted on the corner, with dark hairs in the cracks. In the bedroom where he was found, it was also trashed. The bed linens were stripped off, and there was quite a bit of blood on the mattress. The drawers were all pulled open. Stuff was overturned, broken, and scattered all over the floor. There was a blood-stained sheet wadded up on the floor. There was a pillow so soaked in blood, it's now red. There were blood on the walls, nightstand, and closet doors. The closet doors themselves were on the floor, by the way. Inside the closet was a large closet organizer system that was still in the box, but the box was torn and it had blood on it. His wallet was eventually found under his bed with $100 cash in it. They found some sex toys, handcuffs, and there was some bondage items in the closet. They came across a metal clipboard with dents in it and a small metal pipe with blood on it. Also, a bent shower curtain rod.
There was no sign of forced entry, and both the front door and back door were locked. They ruled out a robbery motive immediately.
Right, so they're saying that it was definitely not a
But
robbery.
why did they rule that out? Because they found the bent freaking screen.
They did, but the state of the apartment, they kind of figured he might have damaged it on his own or something, or maybe it was previously damaged. But with the doors locked and money being there, all of his items were there. They didn't think that robbery was what they came for.
Y'all ever seen Liar Liar?
I'll kick my own ass.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? I'm whooping my ass.
Oh my God. I went Big Daddy. I wiped my own ass. I was like, I kicked my...
I'm whipping my ass. Do you mind?
Yes. I love Liar Liar. And the thermostat was set at either 60 or 62, depending on what report you read. Either way, that's pretty cold. But he ran hot to begin with. And with the testosterone injections, he would always be so hot. So he kept the apartment very cold. The probable cause affidavit shows statements from the police officers regarding the updates they were getting from hospital staff after Brandon came in. And they said several medical professionals stated to this detective that these wounds could not be self-inflicted. In fact, they said his injuries were similar to someone being hit by a car. The final search warrant stated it was in hopes that the person or people, quote, responsible for Mr. Embry's injuries to be identified and brought to justice. At first, they believe that Brandon had had a break from reality and went into a drug-fueled rage. But when the hospital staff told them about the injuries and that his talk screen was clear of illicit drugs, that is why they kicked that search out of Turtle and right into Rabbit. What exactly were those injuries? Well, I'll try to keep it short. He had numerous cuts to his face, including a deep Y cut to his eyebrow, cuts and bruises to the inside and outside of his lips, his frenulum, that little piece that connects your upper lip to your gums just above your teeth. And I know you just felt that with your tongue to see. That thing was cut or torn. We know about the raccoon eyes, several bruises and patches of swelling on his head, the biggest above his right ear, scratches on his back and sides, bruising on his lungs that one officer said was consistent with being hit with a hard object like a metal rod or a baseball bat. They believe this was enough to bruise his lungs. Several deep scratches on his arms, up to 8 inches long. Small puncture wounds to his left wrist, right palm, and toes. Lots of rips and tears and bruising on his wrists and palms, legs, feet, you name it. He had 2 bruises on his penis, and there was a 5-inch long diagonal scratch across his butt. The back of his torso and legs were a reddish purplish color. The front of his legs were also bruised up like that. The left knee had at least 20 small scratches and scrapes. The right knee had 10. And that's not all, because I don't have 3 days to list it all out, but literal damage from head to toe. And the only things in his system that were unaccounted for, or the only thing in his system that was unaccounted for, was diphenhydramine. And I hope I said that right. That's the active ingredient in sleep aids, or Benadryl.
The medical examiner said the cause of death was complications of pneumonia and listed it as natural. What?
Yes.
Listed it as natural?
Yes.
Wait until you see the fucking pictures. This dude looks like, so the raccoon eyes, as soon as you said that the toilet bowl was like busted and like the lid was busted in half.
Yes, the lid.
First thing that came to mind, they put his freaking face on there, they slammed it down, then they just started stomping the shit out of it.
You are right on point with what his mom said.
Yes. Well, it makes sense.
Yes.
And yes, the rod beating him with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just there was so many different ways you could, there's so many obvious ways as to what happened.
That were not him
But I just seen
beating
the one,
himself
I
to
just
death.
seen the one picture. And then when you said that the damn toilet bowl lid was broken in half, I was like, that's where that came from.
You did. That was immediate.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me how they can say that they're literally saying, and I'm not shitting you, that he beat himself to death.
That's why there's no freaking, wait till you guys see this. Like I said, you guys need to subscribe to us on, come and follow us on Facebook and everything, because we post all the pictures on Facebook. And
I really debated posting these pictures because he looks very rough. It's hard to see, but his mom has made it a point to make these as out there as possible so people can actually see what they saw that day.
Now, there is pictures that we don't post, and that's like dead body.
Correct.
At the crime scene. This right here was actually before that.
Right. This was when he was still alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would say, for the sake of this case right here, I know that he is passed or whatever.
Yes.
But I would say that so that they get an idea of what it is, we need to go ahead and post these pictures so they can see what we're seeing.
Right. Because it's one thing to explain it. It's another thing to visually see it.
And when she says that it's like raccoon eyes, it's literally like what you thinking. It's like black.
Very swollen.
Going across from
dark
the bridge
purple.
of his nose out to each edge of his eyes.
Yes.
But
and like I said, his mom has made it a point to make these very public so that if you want to see them, you can. But just know that we will post pictures like this. You can see them on the Facebook page that his mom has. We're not doing this out of like some kind of shock value that we're trying to get.
No.
It's to understand exactly the ridiculousness that we do these cases for. It's to get the word out there of how fucking stupid these investigations can get when you're dealing with something like this.
Yeah, it's just kind of give you reference points too.
Yes.
As to where we are in the story.
Very true. Now, she said, now I'm talking about the medical examiner, said that his injuries were superficial and not contributing to his death. Okay, so maybe if nothing outside of the body was enough to kill him, why was there so much damage to his body?
And why it was all of his insides shutting down.
Everything was shutting down, everything. And that if they're so superficial and do not contribute to his death in any way, what caused the organ failure? Why not look into that?
Whatever happened, basically he got beat into complete shock. His whole body is shut down. His body doesn't know what to do anymore.
And that happens. He never gained consciousness. So he was, I don't know. And they've said that there was no damage to his brain, things like that. But his mom has, like I said, posted pictures on the Facebook page where it shows what I see as damage to possibly his skull, or it's like right at I'm not a doctor, but there's damage. Okay, there's damage. And the family, like I said, did not accept this. The body diagram in the autopsy report, which we've posted a couple of times on some cases where it's like a outline of a body and it's front and back, and they will mark where the injuries are. We did it in the Robert Wan case so you could see where the needlepoint injections were and things. Theirs in the autopsy report did not have anything marked on the back of his body. It was completely blank. Sarah, his mom, and the medical staff went over the injuries they remembered seeing, and I'll post the side-by-side pictures of the two so that you can see just how different they really are. And the family, they started cleaning stuff out of his apartment. They realized that his apartment key was missing from the key ring to his truck. And remember, the spare key was also missing. That would mean that either Brandon had no key to his apartment or someone took them. They found bloody items and also streaking in some of the blood like someone tried to clean it up, probably with the bottle of bleach that was found in the floor because there were bleach crystals in the cleanup areas. And the police did confirm that. There was also antifreeze, I believe, in the living room of the apartment. Either way, it was inside the apartment. There were gel capsule shells with the liquid squeezed out next to a bottle of Equate, which is the Walmart brand, sleeping pills. There's a type of handheld sledgehammer that they believed had blood on it, but the police confirmed that this was not blood. The family also talked to neighbors, and one said that they saw Brandon arguing with a dark-haired man on the last day that the family believes he was communicating with them. Could this man have the same dark hair that was found in the busted bathroom mirror? We don't know. The hair was never tested, and there's nothing to show that that lead was ever followed up on.
Sarah pulled his bank records, not the police. His mom, Sarah.
Yeah. So she got a hold of his bank records to see his last transactions or if anyone had used the card.
Is this another one of them? What was the story where the guys went to the ATM? Which one was that?
Lots of people go to the ATM.
No. But we did the story where the guy went to the ATM. We just did it.
And what happened at the ATM?
He went over trying to pull the dude's money out, and then he went to the bank, said, he told me I could have all his money out of his bank.
Oh, you're talking about Christian Andriacchio.
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't go to the ATM, though. He went straight to the bank.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He went straight to the bank.
And tried to clear that account out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to that.
Is that what this is?
They're looking into that, but no, that's not what this is.
Okay.
So she was investigating herself, and she found out that on September 11th, Brandon's card was used at a Chinese food restaurant in the mall food court for $17.28. Average meals are between $6 to $10. So it's speculated that this could have been for 2 meals, but that's not known. The receipt from the credit card machine at that restaurant shows that Brandon signed the receipt, but they have no surveillance footage because by the time they got this information and made it back there, the footage had already been taped over. Also that day, there was a charge at an Adam and Eve adult store. They confirmed that Brandon was seen in the store before, but they could not recall if he was there that day. The CCTV footage was also gone by the time police looked into it. At 8:26 p.m., there was a 13-minute phone call between Brandon and a woman in Virginia, who we now know was Olivia Goss. The pair had met online in August, but even though they talked regularly, they had only met in person once.
So is this Ashley?
We don't know. I said there's a couple of women we're going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
This night, she said she was talking to him while she was driving home from work, she thinks. And he joked a lot and seemed happy. Police checked with a Chevy dealership to try to get his truck GPS logs, but there were no location information logs saved locally. Some news reports and things show that the GPS log was wiped and there was no information. So either they didn't get the logs or the logs were cleared. There was no follow-up, so there's no clarification.
He was on all of those dating apps, so he was talking to multiple women. His family said he liked living with someone versus living alone, so he was looking for love.
Yeah. So he had been in that serious relationship in Washington where he lived with the girl, and he said he really preferred that. 5 days after his death, a woman named Cassandra messaged Brandon's sister-in-law on the Facebook and said that she had been Brandon's girlfriend since they met on Hinge around mid-May until his death. She said Brandon had sent her a crying emoji on the 10th, and she hadn't heard from him since. She asked for one of Brandon's sweatshirts and for some of her stuff that was in Brandon's apartment. This was forwarded to Sarah, and that's how the family got involved in the shit show that is Cassandra's life. Now, this is where we're going to have to leave you for part 1. You're going to have to be sure to check out part 2 because, wow, we will get into her role in the case, her past, and where the case is right now. And you really do not want to miss it.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's the end for this one. So catch us on the next one. But don't forget to go to Facebook, Spotify, and all them and make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Hit the little bell so you guys get the notifications when the new episode drops. And everything. So we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.